What's up, everybody? Welcome back into Indianapolis, into the Indianapolis Convention Center, Lucas Oil Stadium, the NFL Scouting Combine, as you can see behind us. That's Andy Baxter. I'm Spencer Holbrook. This is all presented by Buyers Auto. Of course it is, Andy. Welcome into the show again. A lot to discuss, a lot to break down. Zach Harrison working out, I guess, as we speak, from 3 to 8. So if you're watching anytime between 3 and 8, I guess you can catch Zach Harrison working out. It's a long time to be working out. I don't know why they can't just have the guys do it all right away and then, hey, after an hour you're done. But I'm not part of the NFL Combine there, Andy. I just cover the thing. Ronnie Hickman and Cameron Brown took center stage today, and Cameron Brown in particular took center stage today. Kind of wowed everybody with his press conference. We're going to get into all of that on the NFL Combine Report presented by Buyers Auto. Andy, 2 days in now, day 2 in the books at the NFL Combine. Just general takeaways as we enter tomorrow, which is the C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith, and Jigba portion of the show, but we are now done with the Ronnie Hickman, Cameron Brown portion of the show, Zach Harrison as well.
Really interested to see how some of these guys test out, starting with Zach Harrison. We've heard a lot about what his 40 time could be. Again, a guy with a lot of talent coming out of high school, and I saw 4.5 numbers, like even last year at times, so I'm really curious to see if he gets to that threshold, as well as these guys we talked to today, and Cameron Brown and Ronnie Hickman. Cam Brown said what he wants to run a 4.2?
4.2.
4.2, folks. So if that's possible, that's a high number to reach for our corner, but certainly doable at times, more in pro days than you see in the combine, because some of those numbers are a little bit more unofficial. But we'll see. Confidence was definitely what he had today and what he brought.
Yeah, I wrote about that at lettermenrow.com, as you wrote about Ronnie Hickman, with both of those stories now up on the website. Cameron Brown walked in with a little bit of a strut. He had a very shiny, massive chain on, also featuring a padlock that said Cam on it. He told us that he kind of is putting his confidence out there in public a little more, is becoming a more outwardly confident guy rather than just having it all inside. It was a different Cameron Brown than I've ever seen. Like I said, he stole the show, not only because you could see that chain from a mile away, flashing every time a light hit it, but he was just very confident. He called out Michigan, which was hilarious. He talked about Ohio State being the best team in the country last year, despite the 2 losses. He talked about how he doesn't really have anything to prove. He just wants to go out and do his best, which is a pretty confident thing to say for a guy who's being projected in the 200 range of the top prospects available. Cameron Brown, as confident as he possibly can be to be in his position right now, like I said, among those 200 to 250 range. But he has the confidence of like what we saw Jeff Okudah over here when he was the number 3 overall pick a few years ago. It's kind of wild.
You need it if you're him, because not only are you in the 200-some range for this prospect ranking, but you're also a guy who has injury problems in the past. Missed an entire season because of an Achilles tear. Missed time because of a leg injury. Was missing time this past season because of a knee injury. If you have that injury history, you need to have the confidence, and you need to have the numbers to show guys, scouting, people, GMs, everyone in these organizations, that you're someone to take a chance on. And you need to run something like a 4.3, maybe a 4.2, to get guys to take a chance on you because you have the injury history. He's someone with great short distance quickness. He's someone who has pretty good frame, 6 feet, 190 some pounds. For a corner, that's pretty decent. He can tackle pretty well. I think he needs to be a little bit better in run defense, but as an outside corner, he has what you want in terms of the physical ability.
Yep.
But it's more of the consistency and the durability that have been the question for him in his Ohio State career.
Yeah, and he also flashed some versatility. Like, this is a guy who came in as a wide receiver to Ohio State and ended up playing cornerback. So he's athletic enough to be on an NFL roster no matter what. It just depends on, are the numbers going to be good enough, which we'll find out on Friday, to take a chance on him in the 4th round, maybe 5th round, instead of being a 6th or 7th round guy, UDFA. I don't think that's really in the cards. I think he will get drafted. Then we move on to a guy who spoke earlier in the morning, Ronnie Hickman, who seems to be on the upward trajectory when it comes to his draft stock. Another confident guy, another guy who, is kind of brushing off everything else around him other than being at the combine. He was even asked about the Ohio State defense last year. Ronnie Hickman, that's in the past. I don't want to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about the combine. That chapter of my life is almost over. Showed a lot of respect for Ohio State. along the way, but also said, like, I'm fully focused on the combine. I think he's due for a big week here. This is big for Ronnie Hickman, I think, to be able to show teams what he's made of on the field and in the meeting rooms.
Yeah, you talk about versatility. I feel like Ronnie Hickman is the epitome of that for this Ohio State defense. He's played 300-plus snaps in the box each of the past 2 seasons. Pretty good tackler, had 100 tackles this past season in 2021, not 2022, but he was the first Buckeyes player to do that in 6 years at the time. And he's also decent in coverage, too. He didn't have a good end to the season in the Michigan game, and then the Georgia game especially struggled at times, as did everyone in that back end.
Yep.
But he does have the skill set, obviously, to leave college early. I mean, he really only played 3 seasons at Ohio State. Was there 4 years, but in that time had 3 different defensive coordinators, 3 different position coaches, and when you have that much change, it's not necessarily good in college, but it does make you more prepared for the NFL. Learning different playbooks, learning different schemes, being adaptable. I mean, he played the bullet safety position, then he was at the adjuster position, he's played in the box, he's played single high. He's done a lot of different stuff.
You're allowed to mention it. He played lacrosse in high school.
He played lacrosse in high school. So, yeah, he actually talked about that and said that it helped with his vision. He was a midi, playing lacrosse, was pass first, and he said that when you're in the back end, a lot of it's where your eyes are at, keeping your head on a swivel. He said that's really been helpful for him. So, again, versatility, stress was stress this morning, and it's something to keep in mind with him, and it's really important if you're a defensive back in the NFL.
Yeah, I think Ronnie Hickman, Cameron Brown, 2 names just to completely, you've got to be watching what those test numbers are going to be. Whether that be the 3-cone that's probably more important for offensive and defensive linemen, whether that be the 40, the footwork drills that they like to put them through, the hip flips. Those aren't really timing drills, but they are split-second timing drills when you're going through those. Those guys, if they test well, I really do think they have the most room to grow now, because I think we're already seeing Zach Harrison kind of skyrocket up the boards already. But I think now that we're actually in it this week, obviously I picked Zach Harrison to be the biggest riser. But like I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but as we get through the week, I really do think that Ronnie Hickman and Cameron Brown have a lot of wiggle room. And maybe that can be to their disadvantage as well, where if they don't test well, the wiggle room is a floor instead of a ceiling.
Yeah.
But I think these guys are starting to get closer to that ceiling than they are the floor as far as their draft position. But back to Zach Harrison, man. I'm very anxious to see what Thursday night brings for Zach Harrison. He should test well, and if he tests well, you're really going to start to see a conversation pick up for him to be in that back half of that first round and maybe even get up into that select group in the first round.
If that were to happen, then he'd be probably one of 4 Buckeyes players selected in the first round of the draft. And when you're talking about testing, yeah, Cameron Brown is one that he needs to test well.
Yep.
Because when you've had those injury problems and you've had those inconsistencies, even when you are healthy and on the field, you have to show something.
Yep.
And so that's another one to watch out for. I think Ronnie will be fine, and I don't think there's as much pressure for him to perform in some of those measurables. But I think for, as you mentioned, Zach and Cameron, those are going to be 2 really good players to watch in terms of those combine drills.
Longest wingspan among the defensive ends, Zach Harrison. People have called him a pterodactyl before. I like that. I think it's kind of fun because his arms are just so long. He envelops quarterbacks when he sacks them. There were so many other times where he was just so close to getting sacks. Why is that? Because his arms are so long. That reach is crazy how he can reach over defensive or offensive tackles and get to quarterbacks and almost get to quarterbacks. How he can change plays with the way he bats footballs down. He's got good hands. He caught an interception off of JT Tuimoloau. Deflection against Penn State this year on the road there in Happy Valley. He can do it all. Now he needs to do it on the 3-cone. He needs to do it on the 40. He was a sprint star on the track in high school. Why not do that at the combine? I mean, no better way to do it than at the combine. So Zach Harrison, man, it's just one of those names I'm going to keep saying. I'm going to keep beating that drum. He has a huge opportunity in front of him on Thursday when he wraps up his combine. It's all in front of him at this point.
I'd really pay to see more of Zach Harrison versus DeJuan Jones just in practice because, DeJuan Jones' wingspan was the longest of anyone at the Senior Bowl ever. And then you take Zach Harrison leading the defensive end group here in terms of arm length. I just would like to see that one-on-one, but I'm sure it happened many, many times at the Woody. Now they're both gone from there, and they're here in Indianapolis trying to make a name for themselves.
Still have a lot of coverage coming at LettermenRow.com as C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith-Njigba take the stage. It's going to be a pretty bananas day here in Indianapolis on Friday. Jackson is first thing in the morning. C.J. Stroud is second thing in the morning. Both of them are going to have massive media presence. The good thing for Jackson, and I think this is something to monitor, Jackson Smith-Njigba will speak at the same time Bryce Young will speak. There are a lot of people who probably want to talk to both of them. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of people here, but I think Jackson's media contingent might lend him to open up a little bit more, just because he won't be surrounded by so many people. C.J. Stroud is going to have the population of Indianapolis surrounding him, trying to ask him questions. It's going to be a bonanza surrounding these guys. A lot is going to be thrown at them. The good thing, though, and I don't want to revert it back to today, is Ronnie Hickman talked about Ohio State prepares these guys for the massive media scrum. There are 40, 50 of us in the Woody at any given time asking these questions to those guys. This is obviously 100, 200, 300 people trying to ask them questions, but also they're not really strangers to any of this. So might help them to their advantage. C.J. Stroud gets to throw the football, and Jackson Smith-Njigba gets to catch it tomorrow as well. Maybe that's Saturday. I think it's Saturday.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really good rest of the week, though, for Ohio State. I think there's a lot of Buckeyes that stand to gain. C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith-Njigba, chief among them. I think tomorrow is a huge day for both of them.
Yeah, the comfortability is definitely noticeable. Seeing these guys up the podium. As you mentioned, the media contingent for Ohio State is larger than some of these beats for the NFL that they might see when they graduate on to some of these teams. But, with CJ, obviously the Indianapolis attraction is huge. He might be a Colt at the end of this. So there's going to be a lot of people talking to him. But for Jackson, really the first time we're going to hear from him in a long time. And a guy that played 3 games, practically missed all of last season with a nagging hamstring injury. The question is that going to be a problem next season in the future in the NFL for him? And does he have the speed to really be a do-it-all guy, or is he just a slot guy? We tend to think that he could do it all. We think he's closer to that wide receiver 1, but there are people out here and in this building right now that believe he's closer to wide receiver 3, 4 in this draft. So a lot has yet to be seen about what he can do, and we're going to see it tomorrow a little bit, what he says.
Yeah, the meetings are well underway. Every single NFL team has had somebody walk up, say, hey, have you talked to the Texans? Hey, have you talked to the Buccaneers? Hey, have you talked to the Colts yet? They've talked to all of them. It's NFL Combine season. The GMs are here, the coaches are here, the players are here, and Lettermen Row is here in Indianapolis for full coverage of the NFL Combine presented by Buyers Auto. That's Andy Backstrom. I'm Spencer Holbrook. A lot more coverage from Indy coming your way. We've got more video content. We've got more written content. We've got some podcasts coming your way. Stick with us at LettermenRow.com. We will see you back here on Friday for full coverage of the NFL Combine presented by Buyers Auto at LettermenRow.com.